We can see Vanity Fair from the narrow road, and sometimes we forget it is an illusion. The Satanists faked atomic weapons, they were Satanists. The wolves used the Red Cross, Salvation Army, Goodwill. We live in reset world. You on the narrow road are tricked if you think this judgment on the United States of America is not long overdue. So the Ezekiel pulled up here. As I and you and this we are going through together to spiritually ask why we die. Why do some try to muddy other people's water? Evil lies were accepted as true. On this narrow road, I must persist and insist you do so also to grow wise every day. What is the beginning of understanding God? It is to fear him. When we are near, we are dear. If our eyes are off him, it is sin. Circumcision sure needs an incision. Circumstances require me to circumspectly, I warn you collectively. Now, 40 plus years as a witness, as a prophet, as an explainer of election and predestination. I have been educated to let him, my Abba, fight my battles. My rest is working to make his glory known as shown in scripture. Mercy nursing with milk of the word, causing spiritual growth and confirmation, for instance. Welcome, everybody, to Mud Flood Was Armageddon. The Mud Flood was the Armageddon. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they are willing to debate you in a fair and honest way. Excuse moi. In the higher realms of scholarly theology where I hang at, that's where you do the black screen when you've coughed up a loogie. Hacked up a loogie is what we used to call it in the 60s, and I didn't want you to have to be a part of that. Man. Hey, let's look at some of this stuff. Have I not shared the screen? I thought for sure I did. There's this thing always in the way, right? Oh, I must have closed it. I know where it is. We must comply or they will detain you. Any pictures? Some pictures today. Oh, I think you'll like them. What's this? Small version, huh? So the Chinese spy balloon back then, that was American. You know, somebody they find something that said made in China, and they just figured, oh, it's Chinese. It's not like everything's made in China. Huh. The UK has their, that new geoengineering that they're doing in the UK. It has a new name. Now they've announced that it's called the Stratospheric Aerosol Transport and Nucleation. It's Satan. Yay. They are so happy. Aren't they clever? Aren't they're probably patting themselves on the back. We're going to look at some head frames. So I just wanted you to know that they all need a building. You buy these in a kit. You know, if you wanted one, there was at the time in the 1890s, if you wanted one, you just said, "Hey, how much for to get me started up with the head frame?" And they would say, "Well, how much money do you have?" Because there's gold in them hills. You know it's a reset. You know that Colorado is El Dorado, and some of the buildings have been here a long time and some haven't, but they're still very impressive because when you're after gold, in 2011, they found fossils of mammoth, mastodons, a giant sloth, and other ice age animals around the city of Aspen. So Aspen passes a plastic bag ban. The merry-go-round was renovated. Okay, well, there's some mastodons still being found. I looked at Aspen. Who wouldn't want to go see? Hey, look at this tent. Albert Schweitzer, guest lecturer. This guy, he was a tent designer. Aspen was full of rich people. For some reason, they decided to settle in Aspen. They bought these houses out of kits because there were already mines here, because this is El Dorado area where the cities of gold were. One of them, anyway, Smuggler's Mountain, jumped right out at me there. Look at you, smugglers up there. Why are these trees growing in a straight line? The Silver Queen of Aspen, Colorado. Ugly thrash. Oh, wait, something. Hey, look, there's just money flowing out of the coffers there. Look at it. Look at the roof. It's so bad. I mean, it looks like it would have been, it looks like it has lasted a very long time. I don't think they just built it. Maybe. Look at that. So all this gets, when they build a railroad, they focus on go get the gold. Everything in between is a chance to sucker people into moving to the United States to become wage slaves from the beginning, and then teach their children to murder and to have abortions and to recruit other children, whether it's for the John Wayne Gacy gay crowd or the Jeffrey Epstein straight crowd. That's been their goal from the very beginning. Am I sharing the screen? Nobody's going, hey, you're not sharing, so I think I'm sharing. Excuse them. Wow. We're looking at pictures, right? Yep. Just something from Aspen, I think, or something. Hey, you two children, go stand in front of the deserted building. This will be your home someday. Okay. This one? Yeah, it's this one. What are you doing over there? That's a nice cart. Is this Aspen again? Yep. No. It's pretty cold there in February. Oh, we don't know if this is February. 1 mile long tramway. Compromise mine. They found some of the buildings and some they had to rebuild. Must have got that one twice. But anyway, 1884. Believe me, these little towns, they don't exist anymore. There's nothing there. There's only Aspen. And if you want to get a Rolex fixed, you have to either go to Denver or Aspen, not Vail. That's a pretty fancy town too. So look at how quickly the mining claims spread. And people knew it. This is my land. I mine. If you find any gold here, mine. How about that? I thought this was funny. The Utes must go. Get rid of them and their ancient traditions. And don't forget to patronize the Pioneer Grocery Store of Colorado. Okay. Duly noted. Another one they would have bought because there was already a mine ready to go. No, somebody had to build it, get these logs ready to shore up the mine, go find the gold. Because they passed the law, we need it because we had to end up where we are today. So this is what's inside one of those stand houses. That's what they're really called. Hey, dude, your thing's crooked. Is that okay? Are you cool with that? Got all these cables going here. Look at you working it. They didn't work for free. They got food and water, and they worked all day for the company store. Somebody had to build it. Somebody bought it from a kit, said, do this, do that. I've done it before. Listen to me. This goes here. That goes there. Okay. Fired up. Go get the gold. Sometimes you didn't have a lot of money. You could only get 10 horses. There's probably more than 10, but there's 10, 12 is enough to pull this wagon. Be careful going down that little incline, you old scrawny horse. Look at this scrawny white horse. Is he scrawny? I don't know a scrawny horse from a. Hey, there's the thumbnail. Do you know that according to the Vanity Fair, smoking's cool again? So whoever this girl is that made a video about the music, she decided she'd smoke 2 at a time. And I thought, that's kind of badass. Remember him? He was the football millionaire and he quit to join the Rangers, and then they killed him because he said, wow, it's all a lie. And they thought that he was so famous. He thought he was famous enough that he wouldn't die, but he did. They killed him. His own guys killed him. They said it must have been an accident. So this is, I found these in the rocks, and it's a nerve point. I don't have the videos from my old channel, but I remember this being something in the ocular part of the body. So this looks like a really peaceful protest in Chicago, This is the way most people are, unless they're agent provocateurs. This has to be part of the setup, right? I mean, this building is a mud flutter. It's downtown Chicago. It's like St. Louis, Cincinnati, Cleveland, and I guess New York has some old ones. Look, how long have they been rubbing it in anybody that paying attention's nose? I was alive. I remember when these guys got married. I know it's new and it's like shocking to you, but we've known for quite a while.
In St. James Palace, Savile even hand-wrote an unofficial set of guidelines on how the prince and his royal staff should respond to any disasters that may occur. Charles then showed the dossier to his father, Prince Philip, who passed the contents on to Queen Elizabeth II. Savile was even awarded a papal knighthood by Pope John Paul II. The issue is, Jimmy Savile was a pedophile.
The evidence is now overwhelming that one of Britain's most beloved entertainers, the late Sir Jimmy Savile, was also a predatory sex offender. It's believed he abused young children over many decades, and 2 charities in his name have shut their doors.
A serial abuser of children.
They can't act like they didn't know this, right?
Challenged. Another was Duncroft, a girls' home and school in Surrey. The school was live-in and hosted girls ranging from 14 to 16 years old. According to Sheila Terry Bailey, a survivor of Savile's abuse, Savile was given free rein, would often bring the girls cigarettes and alcohol, and had his own guest bedroom in the girls' school. And in danger of sounding hyperbolic, this man really seemed to be a demon walking among us. Didn't even
and no antibiotics. She would hear me on it and she'd tell me she'd get back to me, but she didn't, which was unusual for her. She was a long time experienced.
So based on what you saw, some of the other symptoms you saw on him, what do you think, what's your medical opinion about his cause of death?
In hindsight, hyperkeratosis, the dark urine, he had these lines on his nails. They weren't ridged. It looked like the moon of your nail bed went halfway up, and it was a slightly darker singular line right across.
that maybe Jimmy Savile didn't sneak his horrible abuse of children by any of his powerful friends. Maybe that's why they were such good friends to begin with.
There's nothing wrong. You know what? We need a revolution. We need to take all TV sets in Christian homes and dump them in the garbage. My God. We used to have 2 women up here when we first got started in this ministry. I wonder why they always rushed out the door, and I found out later they had a Rush Home Watch dynasty. And this went on for a long time, and they was both ex-lesbians. All right, I think that's enough to let you know about the one-eyed devil.
And at this time, okay, Tammy Faye Baker and Jim Baker were really big on the Christian television evangelist thing. Remember, I did a video about them. Okay, it's called Holy Water. No. What's the video called? It's crazy, the title. Heaven, Hell, and Holy Water Enemas. I did that. Stand by it. They really did not like them.
The trash that we got coming over the blue tube called religious program is nothing but a bunch of junk. Jim and Tammy Baker has proved that out. You know, we have enough problems in the world with lust, let alone some people like Tammy coming on with half of her breast popped out of her dress. I'd like to see the devil beat out of some of these people calling themselves Christian.
So there has always been people calling for aggressive Christianity. What's this girl's name? Something, Nora Jasmine or Jasmine Nor, probably. It was shocking. Guess what? This guy goes to jail. He likes little girls too. So there's that.
She talks about this incident that happened that really changed everything for her. She said, I witnessed a lot of child abuse. We were taught that we had to be hard on the children and raise them up to be Christian soldiers. When my son was 6 months old, we were in one of the services they hold all the time, and he made a cute noise that distracted everybody. I was instructed to take him into another room and beat him. I couldn't do it. 9 knotted cords, okay, and whip her like that.
All right, so people get out of control, man. They think they find Christianity and go. Now, I haven't previewed this. I just jumped it up a few minutes because he usually goes on and on and on. I've canceled. I don't even want any more of his videos recommended to me.
So for the love of God, pick an easier target if you're going to do this, because the Grand Canyon is.
But I do want to show that as an offshoot of one of the people that have taken, hey, thanks, Paco. We'll take it from here. And they come up with melted buildings. And 3 years ago, this is what people, this is why they do it. So people will think this is what the golden age passed, flat earth nation, mud flood was Armageddon. Oh, mud flood was Armageddon. No, it melted buildings.
Is arguably the most studied geologic feature in the world. We know exactly how this thing formed, and there are thousands of sources which all support this same idea. So rather than just saying, oh, it looks like a Lichtenberg figure, why don't you show me the evidence of electrical current? Why don't you show me the evidence of rock being melted here? Why don't you show me the evidence of anything other than just saying this is how it looks and therefore it is fact?
There's another example in New Mexico. Here is more in Saudi Arabia, Canada, more fractal patterns. It's as if the entire world in our distant past got fried and absolutely destroyed.
Yeah, the mud flood was Armageddon. And now we have all of different, they can throw all of the obvious signs of the glittering sword being used because there's melted building people out there. And then there's the trees are whatever.
As if in our distant past, the whole world experienced rain. It is absolutely amazing how you sell these conspiracies. You point out something which looks like something else, and then completely disregard the processes by which one of them was made, while doing an unbelievable amount of research into the processes of the other. You then decide to just apply that process to both. You do a damn good.
So he's telling us what we did, That's not how it happened.
Giant global superheating event wiping out the Egyptian colony of Arizona.
And this looks like an interesting structure. This looks like melted. This looks like an interesting structure. This looks like as if it melted.
Melted like wax? Look, they're going to make fun. This is their job.
You guessed it. Brrr, erosion.
It's heading towards this mountain. It's creating these interesting
No, this was the glittering sword. A third of the mountains get washed away. Some islands disappear. All of the rivers used to flow to the sea, but they don't anymore because there's been a big change and the wolves came out right away. Did you know there was a problem? Why do you think the Salvation Army was so needed? It's the same thing.
About the awful scourge of child prostitution. Booth attacked the problem head-on in the courts and in Parliament with demonstrations of civil disobedience that resulted in the arrest of his oldest son, Bramwell. His pleadings before the courts of justice and humanity had a powerful effect in reducing child prostitution.
Well, how about that? And that is Walter Cronkite. These guys, the Red Cross, they were set up to be in position to help.
Bringing comfort and peace in the midst of war. The historic and memorable relationship of the Salvation Army with America's fighting men and women has continued through every armed conflict this nation has fought, always going on.
And it's good to know that they've got that child prostitution thing settled and we don't have to worry about that anymore. No, wait. Here's something I think we need to quickly just think about before we move on. Under three things, the earth trembles, for it cannot bear up a slave when he becomes king. We're going to stop right there. You can read the rest. But a slave, and doesn't all of our recent studies in history show that, look, you're freed slaves. You can go start your own countries now. United States, Mexico, Canada, Brazil, Argentina, and the list keeps going. Those free and you're freed slaves. Go do it. and they've messed up. And I think that is what you call reading into scripture, maybe.
I want to be an astronaut.
Oh, you want to be an astronaut? Well, that's great. You can be an astronaut. All you have to do is study flying or science, and maybe someday you could be the first astronaut to walk on the moon.
No! There already was an astronaut who first walked on the moon.
Well, no, not really. That wasn't real. See, there was this thing called the Cold War, and in order to beat the Russians, we kind of faked that. That never happened. See how there's no windows on the side? And see underneath where there's like a pod thing? What's that, right? Take a look at this wreckage. See how there's no plane parts on the ground there? What does that look like?
A missile.
You see, President Bush was in a secret society at Yale called the Skull and Bones. His dad was too, and they all worship Satan.
President Bush.
Where's that one at? What about all this weird stuff?
However, her roommates complained about certain odd behavior, so Eliza was moved to a room of her own after 2 days. Apparently, Eliza was leaving notes to her roommates that said go home and go away. She would also lock the door to the room and require a password for entry. During her stay at the Cecil Hotel, she would also make her way to a live taping of Conan in Burbank, but she was escorted out for disruptive behavior.
It's
Eliza
all
contacted her
over
parents
the
daily
building.
while traveling up until about January 31st, 2013, the day she was scheduled to check out of the Cecil Hotel and leave for Santa Cruz. But when her parents in the elevator, she makes several weird gestures and movements. She appears to press every button on the elevator panel. She looks down the hallway, then leaves the elevator at one point while its doors remain open. When the doors fail to close after she returns, she leaves the elevator again. Now, this caused the internet to come up with theories that collectively lowered the average IQ of the human race, like demons were chasing her or fucking ghosts or she was playing the elevator game. Some bullshit about an elevator taking you to a different dimension or something. But let's just come back to reality for a second. During the search for Lamb, guests at the hotel began complaining about low water pressure. Some said their water was colored black and had an unusual taste. So on the morning of February 19th, a hotel maintenance worker went up to the roof, and that's when he found Eliza's body, floating face up in the water of one of the 4 1,000-gallon water tanks on the roof that provided water to the guest rooms.
So those Gold Camp stamp mills from 1890, I thought I'd just show you a few pictures of them. This all got brought in on train. You buy it so you can crush up and get the gold. You know, you gotta get an ounce out of every ton of this brings 1 ounce. Maybe we can, you know, if you just pick out one little spoonful there, it's probably about an ounce, maybe a little more. Ooh, really? You want me to download it? Oh, me. That's a big one. Is that a stamper? That's a crusher right there. That's how you got to pound those rocks and make them into dust to get the gold. You can buy these in a kit. They sold them. They didn't build these new every time they wanted to get a little, because they had like 20 gold mines in every town. There was a mad rush for gold. I'm telling you. What is that? wish I could just say, I don't want pictures from Almay. Only Reddit. I only want pictures from Reddit. So here's a Hoover Dam. That means I was looking at this. All right, let's look at this. I got a suspended page here, so that didn't work. We were going to read it. All right. Only 2 times, and it means in the middle. Coming down from the highest part of the land in Judges, and the Gog and Magog, Ezekiel 38, right around in that same part in the scroll where can you make these bones live that dwell in the center of the world? It's not the North Pole. It was Jerusalem. So knock it off. Really? More, we didn't have enough gold shed pictures. Aspen, I'm pretty sure. That's a big one. Last Chance Mine, 1915. This reset's getting closer all the time, isn't it? Or the resets within resets. I guess that they needed, this is that after they unload it from the train, the horses can take it a little while longer. They don't have trains to every little station. Once we get this up there, we're going to start finding gold, boys. Yeehaw! Can't wait. In the meantime, plenty of work to do. Hydraulic mining. Get the gold. Get the easy gold. They didn't know about cyanide for a while. 2 million back then, that was a lot. But debt made it all go up. Look at that long sluice. Boy, that is jet power, nozzle, steam power is always just focused behind it and shoot it out a fine point like a laser light. More.
1891, or perhaps of overwork, in his Howardsville home, leaving a widow and 6 kids. The Gold King claim was patented, giving the title of the land to Louisa, Olaf's widow. In 1894, Louisa sold the Gold King claim to northeastern capitalists Cyrus W. Davis and Henry Soule for a mere $15,000. The mine flourished and was developed by crosscuts, drifts, and other openings, forming 7 levels of shafts.
It seems like that'd be worth about $15,000 today to get all that. Here, put this up in the shed I bought and had you shipped to the middle of nowhere.
Totaling 2,000 feet. The mine yielded more than 700,000 tons of gold and silver.
Because this is that land. This is, hey, there's gold in them there hills. No kidding.
Operations continued until 1907, when a fire destroyed the surface buildings of the mine. The mine reopened in 1910, but closed shortly thereafter because of litigation and labor problems. In 1918, a new company bought the mine, and it operated until the fall of 1922, shutting its tunnels forever. The Gold King mine was
Is he gonna go close it out? Keep going.
Something tells me that's not how you fix it.
190 tons of solids, including several forms of toxic metals such as lead, iron, arsenic, mercury, and cadmium. These solids were mixed in with approximately 3,043,067 gallons of water, the volume of water in approximately 9 football fields spread out at 1 foot deep. Immediately after the spill occurred, the EPA and other federal state agencies began working to control additional acid mine drainage and began making water quality measurements to evaluate impacts on the spill.
So, wow, 2013 or 2015, they decided, it's time to get serious, man. It's time to get serious.
My heart is extremely heavy. I had a dream the other night that didn't seem like a dream. Not even a nightmare, actually. It felt more like a vision of the future. And there were gears in our heads that were being made to turn by some outside force against our will and outside of our control. And in that moment, I could feel this sickening taste of a future where nothing, not even your thoughts or anything, could any longer be called your own. In George Orwell's 1984, nothing was your own, except the few cubic centimeters inside your skull. In this dream, nothing was your own, not even the few cubic centimeters inside your skull.
So, True Stream Media, another example of, in our small world, she and her husband are the voice of reason. Is it Aaron and Melissa Dykes? And yet, didn't that sound so beautiful? And, what are we going to do? Well, a woman is about to encourage you younger men to pick up arms and fight for her rights so that her country doesn't change. Doggone it. It used to be make America. Now it's time to make America straight again. It's gone on too long. She wants you to go fight. And I was thinking, no, those days are over. We tried that.
And it reminded me of Revelation 9:6, which says, "And in those days shall men seek death and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them." I feel like the time to speak softly on this matter has passed.
Oh,
As we're
well, then let's hear it, woman. What do you got? Should we go fight to the death because you're offended by what we're going through? Instead of admitting, thank you, God, for this righteous judgment, we couldn't have deserved it more. It seems like your godly patience has been exemplified once again.
being forced to censor ourselves all over the internet and indulge these massive tech corporations in their illusions.
We all
of the
know
future
this,
that
Melissa.
They are instituting and
What's
building
your
all around
answer?
us, really, whether we like it or not. I have to speak in these terms to you now because this was at the core of my vision, and I can feel it in my soul that this is the level things are now at. And as I look at what's happening around us, I consider it no less a question between free humanity and that of inescapable digital bondage. And I don't
Look, by telling you the obvious is giving her credibility. This isn't a long video. We're not going to listen to it all, but I'm telling you, and then what I'm going to show you, there's going to be about another half hour, 25 minutes after this, but it's going to help you so much.
involve us, but really, we need to stop deceiving ourselves. This is a digital gulag that we're being marched right into like sheep. And maybe some people don't want to face
She had a vision and now it's figured out.
that painful reality. But if they can get you to believe you're not human anymore, then they can program you however they want. For over a decade, we've been slowly watching this system rise up all around us, and we've been describing the digital chains. And for the last 10 years, it has only gotten worse. And it feels like everybody's just walking off into this.
Yeah.
There's just nothing.
Yes.
Humans trapped in online and stop acting like it's all just to be dictated to us and that we have no agency of our own here. Because this is not the world that I want to live in. It's not the world I want my kids living and their kids living in. And
So when are you men going to go stand up for your liberty? Because her children, I believe they have a daughter.
I know it's not the world you want to live in and want your kids to live in. And nobody should want to live in this world. What the hell kind of world even is this? This is like if they took every science fiction nightmare and combined them all into a blender. And now they're trying to force everyone to drink it. Well, how about no? My entire existence in this realm rebels against.
So far, we have the same message. You know, all of the things she said is true. I'm encouraging you to not draw a line in the sand and go fight the man and say, only 30% of you are going to get killed today. If you're not ready to take up the slack for their wives and children. It's not time. It's not the time. The Bible doesn't teach that we fight back. We run and let their cities burn. She's going to want you to fight to the death, I believe. Spoiler alert, she's going to suggest a very suspect group of people as to be your ideals.
This future. Because this is digital slavery. And I'm tired of everyone kind of dancing around that point because it's like we don't want to admit to ourselves what's going on here. But I founded this channel with a duty to tell you what I believe to be the truth in all matters that I take the time to discuss. And I am telling you right now, that is the truth. That is what I see. I can't put a pretty face on that. It is what it is. And I feel compelled deep within my soul to tell you what is happening here. And that is what I feel like is happening here. We have to stop trying to avoid the painfully obvious truth, which, as you know, we've made it our duty to seek since we founded this channel. Now, I'm an American, and I was raised in a country that was...
How do you save humanity? She was raised in a country that what?
Founded upon some self-evident truths. And one of those is that we are endowed by our Creator with inherent unalienable rights. That among those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that second one, I feel like I should repeat, is liberty. That is the inherent state.
Look at that, show the Statue of Liberty and invoke patriotism.
What's happening now is...
That's where we're at right now. That's when they've shown this so many times. That's where we're at now. We fall back on the people that did this to us, that we mythologically assign some date in the past that America was great. We want to get back to it because in the meantime, you're going to have to fight for it. If you're liberty, if you're a man.
Is we have corrupt corporations and their government counterparts
Kidding.
pushing us all into a digital space and then using that new layer that's been added onto our physical reality as an in run around those inalienable rights. But I'm here to tell you right now that is not how any of
That's not how America is supposed to be. And that's why she had the vision. That's why she's here to tell you right now.
this works. We're human first, for now anyway. And no matter what new layers of reality are applied over the top of this one, first principles say that we are born into this world with inalienable rights. That comes first.
Oh.
Doesn't matter what you add on to the equation afterwards. First things first, we are born and our creator made us with inalienable rights. These can't be revoked and they can't be removed. They can only be given up by us willingly. There's no other way to predict the
Willingly.
future but then by looking at the past.
Okay.
And 250 years ago, the people in my country were facing a similar fate of bondage at the hands of
Uh-oh. So here you go. It's time to give her liberty or give you death.
an absolute monarch and a parliament that did not represent them at all and would not respect those rights. And if things continue as they are right now, we're walking into
Yeah, that's how those white people built the world, with slaves.
a digital mind prison, basically. A digital gulag, a yawning black abyss, which will only amplify those abuses of the past 1,000-fold, but like in a new and inescapable realm. 250 years ago, the people here began to see themselves not as subjects to a tyrant king, with no representation in what taxes they paid or not even being able to choose what tea they were allowed to drink.
Is
But
that right?
instead,
Is that how it
they began to
happened?
call themselves the sons and daughters of liberty. And they would gather under liberty trees and poles in their villages and towns, and they would raise a flag on that with a very easy to understand message. And that was appeal to heaven. And what that flag means is when conditions get so dire here on the ground, the only thing you can do is take the issue you have to the highest authority. The highest authority there is, the one above man, the one above all men,
They're
the
praying
one that's
for their-
beyond the arbitrary rule
Pray to
of
God
men.
to help the United
period.
States
You take
to
it all
avoid
the
its
way to the
judgment.
top level, the top of the top. You appeal to that authority. And I can't speak for anyone else. I can't. But I would be doing you a disservice if I did not tell you that I can feel that it is about to be time once again to remember who we are as humans made in the image of our creator and not robotic cattle to be walked off
can
in
feel
total
it.
subjugation into a digital prison.
She can feel
If
it.
we continue on this path, it's not death that we face.
So you can move away from the cities and they're for sure burning, death, destruction, cannibalism, floods, murder, and go live somewhere the life that you're free. You have total liberty. You're wondering, you got enough wood to keep me warm today, honey? About things like that. But not if you want to keep this world the way,
You guys, it is something worse than that. And I will never
never.
go quietly into that.
What are you gonna do? You gonna fight them? You gonna pick up a gun and say, "Take that, Pia"?
I say, give me cognitive liberty or give me death.
Not her she doesn't want to have to go fight for the death, I'm pretty sure. But she made it sound like she would for America, because they did it. How patriotic. 1776. It's Alex Jones' fake pseudo religion of Christianity. How's it going to end? With you with a gun in your hand is what she sounds like she's hoping for. I looked up Vicki Weaver theology. She didn't have long life, so she didn't really have a lot of time to flesh it out. Says that she saw the KJV as of the Bible as divinely inspired, but back then there really was only the New English Standard Version and the King James Version that were taken serious. She was married to another guy that it was recently renamed Fort Bragg again, I think, by President Trump this week. Randy was there. I think he was a ranger, a grunt, an infantry. I was there as a surveyor for the 82nd. Yeah, so not long. Not a long life. Ruby Ridge at the Weaver trial, where, you know, she was killed, and they didn't kill everybody, only her son, the dog, and her. 1880s, the mountainous panhandle of northern Idaho became a magnet for right-wingers of all stripes. Now, I don't know where all of your other Flat Earth Nation Golden Age past mud flood was Armageddon or something teachers were doing back then, but I was living this. I knew Bo Greitz, the guy that they had to bring in to settle it. You know, a blurring continuum of homeschoolers, Christian survivalists, John Bircher's Posse Comitatus members. This has been my life. I don't know what you've been doing, but my documented life has been doing this.
His name is Randy Weaver. He used to live on a high ridge in the mountains of northern Idaho near Ruby Creek in this wooden cabin, a remote, isolated place. Now, for many, a symbol for the abuse of government power.
I knew I was dead. I knew that that was it. It's over. It's just a matter of time.
I was just praying that we'd all go at once because I didn't want to watch us go one by one. It was just totally frightening.
Randy Weaver and his daughters, Rachel, Elishaba, and Sarah, lived through a siege that left 3 people dead. His wife, Vicki, his teenage son, Sam, and Deputy U.S. Marshal William Deegan. 3 deaths that never should have happened.
We had an abuse of power.
The young man killed that agent for shooting his dog.
Power from the beginning in this case.
Jerry Spence was the defense attorney who represented Weaver against the federal government when it was all over.
He never has lost a case, so he doesn't take a case unless he's going to slam dunk it.
They established a rule to kill. Hitler could do that.
I have
We
that
can't do
jacket.
that.
So a lot of footnotes on Ruby Ridge, over 130. Now that it goes something, there's Vicki. Surveillance photos, you know. A lot of people were mad about this. There's Bo Greitz. I've had dinner with him. He was running for president. I knew he wasn't going to win, but I bought a button for $5. That was a lot of money back then. During a surveillance operation, Officer Art Roderick shot Weaver's dog when it ran at them and then pointed his rifle at Weaver's 14-year-old son, Samuel. Okay. Samuel fired back at the marshals and was shot in the back and killed by the team. Oh, his friend Kevin Harris shot and killed one of the assailants from the hostage rescue team from the FBI. They all got sued, and the survivors got 3.1 million. The one thing they show him the cabin. Oh, is this? I wanted to show the cabin. This will only take a second. If they don't have it, I'll skip it and explain it. They moved there so they could homeschool. The Christian Liberty had, where I was working, had ended up working, had started homeschooling without me. I didn't get there till 1983 or 84, and wasn't really an administrator until 1988. Had to work my way up from the bottom. So they were, I mean, living a dream on top of a mountain. She was wrong about a lot of things. But what I was looking for is that next to their cabin, her and her friends that were up there at that time had come to the Lord and were reading the Bible. And I think she was the theologian of the family. Randy never was, I don't believe. 30, 40 yards, or no, not even that far, maybe 20 yards from the house, there was a minstrel shed. And it wasn't the only one in that area, because that was one of the reasons I think that she got, was like taken out. And if you don't know the name Lon Horiuchi, and you need to get into this Ruby Ridge because it led to Waco, this has been one continuous snowball of Satan's season coming to a close. I have to see if the humor me as like right now I'm going to the history, because I watched a video earlier and it had a very rare thing. Maybe you remember part of
It's kind of insane how a wide-eyed
this,
goblin
the extensive theory that I have of the timeline from Daniel 2038 was a very big deal.
Folklore. Labubu isn't traditionally cute. It's unsettling, mischievous, like something that might stare at you from the shadows of a children's book. Far more dangerous, more so. That's called the Y2038 problem, and it could be the next real digital apocalypse. Programmers call it the epocalypse, and it starts when the clocks run out. Here's how it works. Back in the 1970s, engineers built systems that measure time as the number of seconds since January 1st, 1970. That date, known as the Unix epoch, is the moment many computers count from. But they stored that number as a 32-bit signed integer, and the maximum value that number can hold is 2,147,483,647 seconds. That takes us exactly to 3:14:07 a.m. on January 19th, 2038. After that, the counter resets, flipping into negative numbers. For any system that hasn't been updated, that means instant failure.
January 19th, the remainder of the remnants of the United States might be trying to inaugurate a new president that day, but their computers are going to go down. There's people in the chat or will be watching soon that have known this for 10 years, going on 10 years.
Or something akin to that. What happens when a clock breaks time? Banking systems, navigation tech, embedded devices, hospital machines, infrastructure routers, some of them still running ancient code. They won't just glitch, they'll believe it's 1901. That means corrupted logs, failed safety checks, broken schedules, and systems that may behave as if time no longer makes sense. And here's the kicker. Unlike Y2K, which had billions in funding and a global panic to fix it, Y2038 is largely being ignored, quiet in the background. Millions of
It's not going to jump to the forefront of everybody's problems really soon because we've got all of these other things to worry about right now. Earlier, the third page of my opening monologue should be repeated before I get into the last 10, 15 minutes. Circumcision sure needs an incision. Circumstances require me to circumspectfully, I warn you collectively. Now, 40 years I've been a witness and a prophet to election and predestination. I have been educated to let him, my Abba, fight my battles. Mostly I've learned that through chess. You have no idea if you're ever really winning or losing until it's over. Because God really is big. Because you when you make a mistake, you realize you can laugh at it if you're like me. Go like, but what was I thinking? What did you make me do that? Something. He fights my battles. My rest is working for his glory, but his yoke is easy. It's a yoke. Your burden is light. You have a burden because you're doing it for all the right reasons. It seems light. It might look hard to other people, but not you. So if God has shown you mercy, nursing you with milk of the word, causing spiritual confirmation, for instance, you might want to stick around for the next few minutes and look at, let's see what this is. This is what they were having us program to, that I've been I remember when the Turner Diaries were being passed around, the New World Order, the 2000 computer bug. I didn't have to buy toilet paper for a year and a half. Christian identity. We started that. We had, with Rushdoony, we didn't know, or I didn't know, that we were being used by the John Birchers, who were founded by the Jesuits, and so was Christian Liberty Academy satellite system. But yeah, who wasn't into militias? And the Black Hebrew Israelites, apocalyptic cults were everywhere. If you want to read it, that's Project Megiddo. I wonder if they have a web page, because this is back when the right wing were basically targeted. It has been obvious for years, associated with the year 2000. I know that seems like a long time ago, and we still have, even after 2038, it goes until 2046. It's time to wake up and realize you're going to be busy. Now, this was obviously one of those April 19th hit jobs to burn it down and cover up the evidence where they murdered the children. I started out showing how this is always revolved around, there's child prostitution going on out there, people. Right. You never went into neither did I. We didn't know there. You could go to the black websites and go to the dark websites and buy the drugs and the kids and adrenochrome. I don't know, but I know all about that pizza stuff, and it seems you can't deny it. They kill their children. They recruit each other. Hey, you want $250? Bring me another girl to give me a massage. I'll be right back. Same with boys or girls. And any religious cult that, there were some innocent people there. This guy here, if ever you have a ministry and it turns to oh, I can have sex with your wife and my wife wouldn't care. Its root is they all have the apocalyptic belief that the mud flood wasn't Armageddon and that there's a Trinity. Now, on that day, their heart will either excuse or accuse them. Who set the fire on April 19th? It doesn't matter. It was going to be set on April 19th. Now, I have a busy day, but I've been going over this. He has roused himself from his holy dwelling. The Lord moves on history at certain times. And if you don't think that I will be to her a wall of fire all around, I will be the glory in her midst, I can only warn you, and I've tried to, that you're not ready for the light right now. You think you are. But we need to be changed. And I don't know what it's like to be you with your faith. I've been there, and he's called on me when I didn't expect it. And, I didn't think I could do it. It's been a long time, but it's worked out. And now he roused himself. I want you to know I'm still waiting for a debate on this, because all of this is in Zechariah about the rebuilding of the second temple and the golden age of the Gentiles, the time of the Gentiles starting when the king of Babylon and the king of Persia said, there's no greater Elohim. I know you all have Elohims, but in Babylon's case, they said, I'm building the true God, and I am a king, and you have to know he's the true God. He's the God of all gods, is the Hebrews. The king of Persia, Esther's husband, confirmed it, said same thing. And the Gentiles, this fulfills that. When somebody was grabbing hold of a Hebrew and said, tell me about your God, tell me about your God. But then they didn't. They decided they would only make money off of it. And I will cause the remnant of the people to possess all these things. He did show them peace. It was in the former days, Jerusalem was the center of people. And in the book of Acts, when people were hearing them give God praise in like 16 different languages, and probably more, because it said the provinces of Asia, everyone was coming to them because the Bible is true. And part of the situation is that the mud flood was Armageddon, and at that time, all of those things took place. There's nothing that hasn't been answered. If you need to know, well, when was the great falling away? 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 15. All of Asia has departed me. Well, that's a great falling away, because the book of Revelation, it was writing to some of those churches, and it had some people working things out. But there would be a great falling away. And today we have the new theology, mud flood was Armageddon, golden age past, that we got from the Bible, that doesn't teach that the saints are going to be rescued from the cities. They're going to be searched for and encompassed about. And you know that as long as you're willing and feel like you have to carry one of these tracking devices, you're dead person walking. This is a flat earth nation. The golden age is past. Trust me, mud flood was Armageddon. You can discern that for yourself from scriptures. Me and my friends will never tell you anything else. Why would we? We know that we've been called, chosen, predestined, elected, adopted to hit our knees, confess our sins, and realize we've been adopted into the family of God because he paid the ultimate price, our death sentence. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arriva Dirty. Ciao. Sayonara. Afira saying. Nakamen. Adios, amigos.